to today's Future Knowledge LeapChat here. If you are viewing the screen at the moment, you may see webcams of Jason and myself. We're going to get started probably in the next minute or so. So we'll just talk amongst ourselves here for a moment or two.
David, it's cold here.
Is it?
Yes.
Cold in the office or cold in LA?
Cold in LA. You know, it's probably 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which is what, 15?
15, 16, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would dream of that right now. We've been,
you guys are a little warmer still?
It would be about 85 already here in this time, 10 o'clock in the morning.
Woo.
Yeah. Very good. So, look, we might start. We're having a conversation, so people can drop in at any point in time, and probably we'll get involved at that point. So, welcome everyone officially to this Future Knowledge LeapChat. My name is David Guazzarotto, and I am the CEO of Future Knowledge, and I'm joined today by my great colleague and friend, Jason Averbook. So, welcome, Jason.
Hey, David, thanks. How are you?
Very well, thanks. I'm going to stop mucking around with the screen, don't I? So we're using a format today rather than taking through a bunch of slides. We thought one of the best ways of connecting you with some great thought leadership and some knowledge around what's going on in the space at the moment was to do it in the format of a chat between Jason and I. But we certainly do want it to be interactive, and we would like you to certainly insert yourself into the conversation as you see fit. If you've got the GoToWebinar control panel open, you will find the opportunity to use the chat boxes there to ask questions or throw comments in, and we'll endeavour to address them.
Hey, David, is there anyone out there? Like, will someone type something in the chat? Like, the first person that types something in the chat, I can send them like a Donald Trump bumper sticker or something like that?
Yes, or let's make HR great again.
There's no one. There's no one chatting. Or at least I don't see the chats. Do you?
Yeah. I can see some chats here, but I can't see anyone chatting yet. But anyway, we'll carry on, won't we? Even if it's just, we'll have a great chat, won't we?
Yes, exactly.
We've certainly got some good. I can see the attendee list going up as we speak, so people are joining the call. And thanks for those taking their time out of the morning. Here in Sydney, it's 10 o'clock in Sydney. Over there in the US, Jason, you're in the Pacific time zone. What time of day you got there? We're losing Jason a little bit on the feed.
I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah, so Jason, what's 3 o'clock in the afternoon for you?
Yeah, 3 o'clock. It's still early.
Excellent. Well, look, while we're doing the introduction, so I think those of you in Australia who have seen Jason before would have probably seen you at the HR Tech Fest last year and sort of round about that. Do you want to just update us on what you've been doing since? Because you've launched a new business, an HR advisory firm called LeapGen. So you want to talk us through how that's going?
Yeah, David. So real quick, so LeapGen, we've launched LeapGen. So my partner Mike Brennan and I here in the United States, have launched LeapGen. Is very similar to that of a lot of the work that you're doing on that side of the world, David, in helping organizations really see the value in their HR and workforce technologies, helping them reimagine where those technologies can take them, and really thinking differently about as the world of HR and workforce technology continues to grow. So, we're spending a great deal of time with organizations on driving that change and helping them everything from think about the vendors they're using to the order in which they should world of cloud we live in today.
Great. And as you say, we're I think we're very much aligned. You and I have known each other for maybe a bit too long. But we've always been very collegiate in what we've done, and I enjoy, I'm enjoying building, I guess, an advisory firm of the future as we're doing here in Australia with Future Knowledge too. So looking forward to developing a strong partnership and certainly global organisations that are looking to leverage capability across multiple geographies will stand to benefit from the relationship that we're building here between Future Knowledge and LeapGen. So excited to see what the future holds there.
Definitely. Very excited about that, David.
Yeah, excellent. All right, well, that's enough about us because this conversation does have a number of other people in it. What we want to do today is really just, I guess, try to lay up 2017. There's always a number of these types of, presentations going around at this time of year. I thought we'd take a bit of a different spin on things today. Obviously, we want to talk about, laying up 2017, where we're at, where we're going, and a little bit of futurist stuff. So in the first part of our discussion today, we'll be going through, a bit of a talk chat about what's new in 2017, putting up possibly the worst formatted slide I've ever produced, but anyway. And then in the second half of the session, we're going to use a bit of a concept. I've got some good friends of mine who have a business here in Australia called Fuel Box, and it's about a box of questions that fuel conversations in various contexts. So we're going to take that format and very much stealing from the good friends at Fuel Box, and we're going to have a crack at some random topics that we've thrown into the mixer, Jason, and see if we can spend 3 minutes on each of those questions in a bit more of a rapid fire, and the hope being we can give you a lot more output towards the end of this discussion as well.
Yeah, no, that's great.
You up for the challenge?
I am. I still don't see anyone chatting. Have you seen a chat? I don't want to start till I see one person chat, or maybe I just can't see them.
Yeah, I think we might be relying on our good producers in the background here to help us prompt some of that stuff. But
okay,
cool. The box open here right now. Anyway, let's hope that they do send some comments through shortly. But in the meantime, why don't we get started? Where I wanted to start today, Jason, obviously is with a bit of a what's new in 2017. And you've spent a fair bit of time, particularly through last year, really looking at what's going on in our space, and I think it's a rapidly evolving world. We call it digital HR, and maybe that's probably a good starting point to talk about what do we mean by digital HR and how does that set us up for the future.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, David. So, one of the big things that I'm seeing this year, and I'm going to put it into a 3. There's really 3 key things that I would try to tie this to the world of digital HR. The first is that every business out there today is digitizing what they're doing. And one of the key components of digitization is not just taking things and putting it online. But one of the key components of digitization is reimagining how things are done. So in most cases in HR, we've been doing the same thing for decades and decades. We really need to take advantage of this digital opportunity to reimagine how things are done. And differently from the world of client-server, how do I actually put things online in a way that's truly going to transform what the worker experience looks like? So that's the first thing. The second thing, David, around digital, and I think a key component of digital is data. I don't think we've done a great job as HR organizations. We've done a great job of getting data and collecting gobs and gobs of data, but I don't think we've done a really, really good job of thinking about what do we want to do with data, how do we want to use data going forward, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I say it's not the biggest that matters when it comes to data, it's the best. And how do we get the best data, and who's going to have the best data going forward? And then the third thing I think that we all have to think through in a different way is what do we want to be great at, and what is it okay to be okay at? I think every HR and HR technology organization has spent tons of time on saying like, oh, we got to upgrade this, and we got to do this, and we got to fix these customizations, and we got to write these reports, and blah 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 blah. Sorry for that interesting grammar, but I think we really need to think about what is it we're going to be great at, and what's it going to be okay at, and everywhere. Next week I'm going to Russia, for example, and one of the things they've asked me to speak about is how to become an employer of choice in Russia. And everywhere I go in the world, that seems to be the topic, is all this stuff, at what end? Why are we doing it? We're doing it to try to become an employer of choice. And I think that when we think of digital, we're not just doing digital to do digital. We're doing digital to A, reimagine, B, get the data, and C, in hopes of those two things, become an employer of choice and stay an employer of choice ongoing.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. I threw that whole question of what's digital HR, out to a group of HR directors that we presented to on Monday morning, and then back to my team internally. It's a really interesting thing. I think the essence of it that's coming through strongly from those interactions is digital is actually about more than just the technology. It's actually about driving shifts in mindset, shifts in behaviours as well. And so to be truly transformative, we're looking at how do we use technology to drive that transformation. Whereas perhaps when we talked about HR technology, it was about how do we automate a process, how do we get off paper. There was I guess a productivity efficiency focus to use the technology. And I like that distinction. I think that helps us to really look harder at how we go about making an impact with the sorts of tools that we are putting into the workplace.
Yeah, and David, if I could, I mean, to me it's experience. It's all about an experience.
Yeah.
So I need to think about what's my experience for the workforce, what's my experience for the contractor, what's my experience for the HR leader, what's my experience for the business person, all of those things together. And if we think about all of those things together, realizing that what we're going to be graded on is our experience, not what we're going to be graded on is simply, HR measures, I think that changes or it will change our lens drastically.
Yeah, and as you quite rightly say, digital is about data too. And one of the themes that we're picking up on is when you digitise something, you actually create opportunities with data that you didn't have before. So, and one of my team put it really nicely was talking about the digitisation of watches from an aesthetic perspective. My Apple Watch here. Oops, where's the camera? I like having an analog face on there, but actually, what's of more value to me is all of the data I can get access to and all the tracking that goes on with this device. Aesthetically, I like the analog, but from a worth and a value perspective, the data is of much higher value. And I'm collecting that because we've digitised. I've moved to a digitised mode of capturing my.
David, if I could, I mean, another value of digital I think that's really important is that watch does more than one thing. Your old watch just told time. I think one of the things we need to be thinking about our technology in our digital HR world to do is doing lots of things. So, for example, I've got my phone. My phone's looking at my tweets that are going across. My phone's doing text messages. My phone's I'm used to write things. I'm taking pictures with it, et cetera, et cetera. I have a friend whose life was just saved by their digital watch, by their Apple Watch, excuse me, where they downloaded a heartbeat app and they could see that their heartbeat was going on at a high pace over extended periods of time. So, I think that's the other thing that we're starting to see in the digital HR space is these tools are not just used for one thing, A, and B, I'm not just going to have one tool. Unlike your watch, there's other things you need to survive. So, I think that in the world of client-server, a lot of us banked on, hey, one vendor is going to do everything for us. But we need the Apple Watch, then we need a charger from someone else, and then we need et cetera from someone else in order to make the whole ecosystem and solution work. So there's lots of different components to what makes the solution successful, not one vendor anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's a really key point. And I guess what's also interesting about digitisation is it's really taken its lead from the consumer side. So we're seeing this consumerization of technology for the enterprise and for people in the workplace, and that's a tremendous opportunity around that. But it also it does put a lot of pressure on what we've done to date with investments in our HR technology and how do we make them continue to deliver the sort of worker experience that we want without having to rip and replace everything. And this evolution towards a more sort of worker experience equating to customer experience in the consumer world.
Well, Yeah, and David, I was just writing something for a partner of ours, ServiceNow, who does a lot of work in this space, and doing some writing earlier today. And what I talked about was that the expectations have changed forever when it comes to what the workforce expects because of the consumer side of it. So, before, when people built technology, they built it for businesses, because businesses were the only people that could afford the hardware to run this type of stuff. Now, in the world we live in today, anyone can afford an Apple Watch. I'm just kidding, not anyone, but anyone. As I always tell people when I speak, people have better technology in their pockets or on their wrist, or soon on their contact lens than what businesses have in a lot of cases. So what that's done is it means that the software vendors are now out there writing software for the consumer world that we're all being held to. So the fact that I've got one click, or the fact that I've got video when I communicate, if I'm not using video to do interviews inside my organization, a lot of people, like my kids, for example, look at it like, what, they're not doing video? Why are they not doing video? Because my kids don't like to talk on the phone. They either SMS text or they FaceTime. And I'm constantly like, why do you want to FaceTime me? They're like, well, because why not? I'd rather see you than hear you. A good thing they feel that way, because not everyone does. But in their case, that's what they're used to. So it puts the onus on all of us to realize that for the first time ever, consumers have better technology than the businesses do, and our expectations are going to be different, and we're going to be held to a different standard for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're seeing that in other aspects too. Learning's being really challenged quickly and rapidly, moving away from the click next style of online learning experiences that we've had to having to appreciate that people want to access knowledge and training in different ways now. And video is obviously a really important way of doing it. Being able to connect socially is really important as well. And so, again, it calls into question some of the traditional tools that we've deployed. How do we actually bring them forward, continue to have, to enhance the foundational stuff that we've got, which is something you and I have talked about a lot too, that we're not just throwing, ripping, replacing and having to start again, that we are focused on a strong foundation so that we can then layer in the cool stuff on top of that and create better experiences on top of the platforms that we have today.
Yeah, I mean, David, I think one of the things that's really key is that if you think about downloading an app, if we download an app on our phone, if I don't like it, what do? Delete it.
Get rid of it.
I can't take that same concept in business, because I think of us in HR who are trying to write these business cases just to get an app in. If all of a sudden no one uses it, I just don't hit delete and we'll try something else next year. That's not the way that it works. It's not going to happen that way in business. So I need to have a strategy that says, why are we going to procure this? What's the value it's going to achieve? How am I going to deploy it and make sure that it gets used? And then how am I going to sustain it long term? Because if I don't have that, before, people had to use my app because that was their job. They were HR people. They had to use the app. Now that I'm asking the workforce to use my stuff, and it's not their job, quote unquote, it requires a completely different mindset.
Absolutely. Yeah, very good. Now, I'm hoping there's some questions coming through. What I'm going to do is just pause our conversation. We actually won't pause the conversation, but I'm going to insert a poll now for everyone to have a crack at, which is a good way to get some interaction. So the first question that I want to put out to the audience and just get a response on is around how well do you think your organisation is prepared for, I guess, the digital disruption to HR. So, in line with the conversation that we've just been having here, Jason, we've got 4 options there for you to choose. If you think you're at the pointy end and leading the charge, that's awesome. And I expect, a number of people on the call today to be in that category, because
I think B is going to win. I think B is going to win, David.
You reckon? We've got a handle on it, but it's early days?
Yes, I think B is going to win.
Yeah. Okay, well, I might lean towards C then.
Oh, just to cause it, just to be different, right?
I kind of like the Weeby Lake disruption. What disruption? We're just carrying on here. We don't.
And I don't know. In Australia, do people know how to vote on these polls? No, just kidding.
Yes, you'll keep it.
Well, if there's not a lot of questions, I'm getting concerned about the audience not asking us things. Like, they should ask us, like, what vendors should they choose? I want to hear you answer that question.
Throw anything at us, really. We're, you know, there's no taboos here with Jason and I. This is your opportunity to fire away and, you know, put the hard questions out there that you don't think others might want to have a go at. So it looks like we've got about 70% of the responses through now.
Nice. Let's see what we got.
Maybe I can't see this live right now on my screen. So I'm not sure where we're at with the results here, Jason.
Looks like you're right. Who said B? Who said B?
Beautiful. Because I'm sharing my screen, I'm not actually...
64% said B, 5% said A, 23% said C, and 9% said D. So that's exactly where I was thinking it would come in.
Wow.
And I think that early days is such an interesting way to phrase this, because I think a lot of people have gone ahead and started to think about cloud, have started to think about digital, but I think that they've done it half-baked. And, you know, I say this all the time. When I say half-baked, I think that they maybe have shifted to the cloud, but they didn't reimagine their processes. Or they've shifted to the cloud, but they didn't rethink their data structure. Or they shifted something, but didn't actually think about how it was going to all tie together, so didn't build integrations, but still built interfaces. Mm-hmm. So they're kind of little d digital, not big D digital. And I think 2017 and, you know, the next couple of years are going to be key to that, you know, as we start to see some of this other really sexy stuff like artificial intelligence and bots come into the workplace and enter our lives. We realize we don't have the foundation, like you said. I was quoted once in a moment of passion, calling it, you know, some of that stuff frosting on a moldy cake. Whereas, you know, there's this really sexy stuff coming out, but if we don't have the foundational infrastructure in place, none of it does us a lot of good.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I'm seeing a lot. We're having some great conversations over the last few months with clients, and I can feel the tide shifting now. There's been a lot of excitement, a lot of interest in new cool stuff over the last year or two, and you know, a lot of the questions we get, or you know, the help that we're asked is, you know, how do we go about procuring and deploying, you know, new tools for, say, video recruiting. You know, or putting engagement tools in on top of their talent management platforms and the like. I'm actually seeing the shift now to saying, well, actually, what's the strategic alignment? Why are we making these investments, and how does that support our overall business strategy? How do we make the connections between business strategy, our, I guess, people and culture or people strategies, and now a digital HR roadmap? And I think here in Australia in particular, there's a lot more focus now on planning more effectively. So I think that early days, we've got a bit of a handle on it early days. If I was to have thought through the conversations we're having of late, I think that's probably where it would land in my view as well. So it's good to see that's bearing out, and the folk we've got on this chat today are of that mind.
Hey David, someone told me they submitted a question and we're not taking it.
Ah.
But I don't see the question, so...
I'm not sure about this platform for...
that's why Noah's like, hey, why aren't you taking our question? And I'm like, well, maybe we're not seeing it.
We have one of our folk in the background here looking into that, and we'll bring that question to life. You know what we might do though, Jason, just to move us along a bit? I'm going to dip into the bowl of rounded questions that I've got over here.
Oh, wonderful.
Right. And I'm going to get us started on a 3-minute question. All right.
So is it a minute and a half each? Is someone timing me? Do we have a minute and a half each?
Well, I think it'll be about 2 minutes 45 for you and about 15 seconds for me.
Okay.
Here we go. Right, first one I've got. Ta-da! Um, worker experience and the rise of the end user in HR tech. Wow. Our time begins now.
So we talked about that a little bit. I mean, the worker experience to me is, one of the things I think is really important. Experience is not technology. To me, experience is 45% process, 45% people, 10% tech. And I think that a lot of us throw tech at it hoping it sticks to create an experience, and that's wrong. That's wrong. I would say, in the state, what would Uber be without drivers? Like, we can't just do tech. Tech's not the only thing that creates an experience. So for me, an experience has to be something that's giving people what they need in a predictive and proactive way. A lot of us, when we think about worker experience, we're thinking about things like dumb employee self-service. And dumb employee self-service is just that. It's dumb. It's getting stuff done, but it's not proactive. It's not giving people the full picture. It's just one small piece of it. So to me, worker experience in the future is how do I actually drive things going forward to create a culture that's driving towards that employer of choice.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the things that we've got to look at, and I very much like the fact that we're talking about 10% being the technology. It's really, this is very transformational. Worker experience is actually it's a change in how a lot of organisations manage their people, manage HR, traditionally have, and so it's very much driving HR transformation. It's really looking at how do we put that individual in the centre of their what they do with us in the organisation, how they experience life as a member of the community that exists in the organisation as well. So for me, it's.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So
I didn't mean to talk over you. You're a little bit. It was the voice was a little bit faded out. Go ahead.
No. So yes, I think we've got an opportunity to really revisit how we approach technology adoption as well, and looking at how do we put the user at the centre, and this rise of the end user. We've been focused on the end user in our business for a dozen years now, and we feel like the world's starting to come towards us now, where actually everyone, particularly when you're talking about technology for HR, digital HR, everyone's a user. So we now need to look at it from their lens rather than from the organisation's lens. So rather than doing a top-down deployment and saying this is what you must do to comply with the HR processes, we've got an opportunity to say, well, let's start from what the use case is from where you sit and build up from there towards a solution.
Yeah, and David, the other thing that's really key about it is personalization. So we're not just dealing with employees and HR, or we're not just dealing with employees and managers with HR. We're dealing with different types of employees in different locations that have different needs. So it doesn't mean it doesn't mean we're doing one-to-one type thing, but we have to realize we're going to have some employees that need a concierge level of service. We're going to have some employees where their technographic is truly ready for this, and we're going to have other employees who don't have access to tech for one reason or another. So I think really, really key to think through that going forward. And when we think about the difference between the people experience and the user experience, UX for the most part, if you think about UX or user experience, that's mostly tied to the piece of technology. But when we think about people experience, that's where I'm saying it's a solution. Yeah. It's everything that goes into it. It's not just the one little, oh, I really like the way this screen looks, blah, blah, blah. Time up.
Time's up, mate. Sorry. We actually went a little bit over on that one, but it was we're calibrating, right?
Exactly.
Now, in the meantime, I found the questions, Jason. They've made their way to me, so thank you for asking questions. We love you, and we're going to answer at least one of them now, all right? So I've got one here, and I guess from Laura, okay, who's asked us a bit of a comment first and then a question around it. I think that most organisations have trailblazers who want to lead digital disruption, but the majority of people in their organisations are resistant. How do we help the trailblazers bring the rest of the organisation towards their vision? It's a great question. I think it's a challenge for a lot of organisations and individuals who are trying to drive that change, don't you think?
Yes, yeah, totally. So David, I mean, one of the reasons that that your organization is called Future Knowledge, and one of the reasons our organization is called LeapGen, is I truly think that we've taken way too many baby incremental steps as an industry, and we truly need to leap forward to the future, or to the next generation. And when we say that organizations have trailblazers, those trailblazers, in my mind, need the backing and the support and the language to be able to take these ideas up, around, and down and spread them throughout the organization. So, to me, change is hard, status quo is easy. Yeah. It's always going to be that way in every aspect of life, whether it be having a baby, whether it be getting married, any of those things. Change is always going to be hard. Status quo is easy. So what have we done? We've been easy. But the reason that we choose easy, is not going to get us ahead. The reason that 70% of organizations aren't in the Fortune 1000 list anymore in the last 10 years or 20 years is because they've not changed. So, for you people, for the people who are trailblazers, you need to make the case that if we don't do this, we are not going to be the employer of choice. We're falling behind. And I'd say the third thing that is most important, and this is just a personal statement, is that if your organization doesn't change and you want to change, go somewhere, go work for someone that wants to make a change, because there's not enough of you trailblazers in the world to do that. And if you're being bogged down and your organization won't, I'm not saying give up, I guess I kind of am, but don't give up. But if you do give up because your organization, you don't see them coming around, go somewhere that will, because we need you.
Yeah, so kind of put the parameters around, work out what it's a futile exercise looks like, and know when you get to that point, and perhaps take a leap somewhere else.
And David, can I say one more thing? I know that time is of essence, but the reason a lot of people are resilient is they don't see the value. And we in HR suck at expressing value.
Yep.
So we have to be able to say the value of this transformation is not just new technology, or the value of the technology is not just X. The value is going to be an increase in something tied to what David mentioned earlier, which is the alignment to the business. If you make that case, forget the tech, forget digital disruption, forget all that stuff, and say, I can help the business. And if you just speak that language and don't make it about the sausage, but make it about the meal, and that's not even an American expression. It's a stupid expression I just made up as I was talking. Think about that. Make it about the meal. Then all of a sudden, your chance of selling it is much better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a couple of points I'd add to that. One is, and you touched on it rightly, HR is crap at making the business case. And we've done it traditionally for HR technology to this point. We've done it around efficiency gains or headcount reductions and those very tangible things. I think most of that's been done in organisations now. So what we need to be able to do is frame it in broader business language, get away from the HR jargon. Think of this as tools for the business, not tools for HR, and look at it from a perspective of how the organisation will be enhanced by the adoption of this technology. And I think if you can start to have conversations with senior leaders, help them to frame it in their language, it goes a hell of a long way to getting the support that you need. Last week I presented to a steering committee as we sort of launched a big program for one of our clients, and one of the messages I gave them was be visible and be a proactive and positive spruiker for the program. But probably the key thing is when the solutions are rolled out, be the first to adopt them. So if you get your senior leaders outside of the HR function particularly, especially, to actually drive the use and be actively and visibly, not pushing it off to the EAs or to other team members to use the tools, I think that goes a long way as well.
Yeah,
so I hope that helps.
Yeah, there's a great piece that says if line managers use these tools, their employees are going to use them. If your direct manager doesn't use them, you're not going to use them. And I think that's really, really key when you think about what we're, every time you get ready to roll something out, who's your contact, who's your main audience, it's that line manager.
Yep, absolutely. And you think if they can't really adopt it, then there's something wrong with the tools themselves you're putting in, and especially the approach you're taking.
Yeah, and David, it's not necessarily there's something wrong with the tool, so don't throw out the vendor. It's more than like, I mean, think about how long we've used crap, how long we've made people use crappy stuff. We have the best technology ever today, so it's probably not the technology. It's probably how you're marketing it, how you're selling it, what they see as the perceived value to them. That's the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So I've got a couple of other questions coming in. Where are we at? Let's go with another great question I've got here from Candace. How do you keep baby boomers engaged when companies are designing work practices for Gen Y? Right? I guess there's a couple of aspects of this. Are we actually focused wholly on designing work practices for Gen Y now? Or,
so David, this is like a, sorry, salivating.
I know.
Salivating.
I had to put it up there, mate.
Yeah, so I don't think that we're designing processes for Gen Y. I think that too many of us look at the demographic of workers versus the technographic of workers. What we're really doing is we're redesigning processes and redesigning things to work the way the world works today, period. And baby boomers, they exist also. So my mom is in her 70s. She's just as good, well, maybe not just as good as an iPhone, but she's just as good using the technology as a lot of people who are in their 50s. And to a lot of people, they're in their 30s. I don't think it's about age here.
Yeah.
I think it's about value. I think it's about marketing. With the right message, no matter what age I am, I'm going to stay engaged in these processes. But I might have to have a different message for certain people than others, like I said, tied to personalization. But I would caution you, it's not necessarily age. I think it's more about there's a great piece of work that Forrester does on technographic, which is, what are you? Are you a creator? Are you a critic? Are you a spectator? Or are you an inactive? And I think that's a big difference than baby boomers versus Gen Y. The funny thing to me is when people say they were waiting for the millennials, the average age, the oldest age of a millennial right now is somewhere between 37 to 40. So 30 to 40 are the millennials, maybe 28 to 40. And if we're waiting for them, like, wake up, they're here. Like, don't wait any longer. They're already in the workplace today.
Yeah, and then, look, I think generalisations are always bad. All generalisations are bad, right? And if we keep saying, millennials are coming, Gen Ys are here, we've got to adapt, we've got to adopt our work practices to it. I think we've actually designed our organisations around the workers. It doesn't matter what shape they take, what their demographic or technographic is. We have to understand our workforce, today, the current workforce and the workforce of the future, and we have to be putting the right structures in place, creating the right environments, and then driving the right experiences. And technology's a part of that to help us with that. But our focus should be viewing it from who are the workers today and for the future, and not just trying to isolate a particular demographic as such.
And David, just one more thing on that question. Go to them. Like, if you want to know how to engage them, go to them.
Yep.
Because they will tell you exactly how they're feeling and exactly what they need. So think that in customer service, there's something called voice of the customer. You need to get the voice of the worker.
Yep.
And when you go get the voice of the worker, you're going to deal with lots of different types of workers. But as part of that exercise, you're selling them on why this is better for them. But probably if you actually go to them, they're going to say it themselves.
Yeah.
And a lot of us just push it out and hope they like it. Go to them. They're probably going to tell you the answer themselves, and that's going to make the rollout much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that we do a lot in the work that we do building, particularly when we're helping to build the digital HR roadmaps, where we don't want to just sit there with the HR team and go, what would you like to do better? Where's the incremental improvement for you, right? We want to go out to their customers. We want to ask some hard questions on their behalf, which quite often HR teams don't do that well. And we want to be able to bring that in to help them reimagine how they're supporting that customer, that end user, that worker.
You know, and David, I'm really frustrated. I'm really frustrated with organizations saying this digital stuff's not for us or we're not ready. I think it's really stupid. Like I said, if I'm between going to Russia, being over there in Australia, being in the U.S., going to London in 2 weeks, like I realize that's not the globe, but I mean, between the two of us, we cover the globe, and you know, you might think your organization is unique. But you know, you might be uniquely ready to go out of business if you're not going to go down that digital path.
Yeah, absolutely. It's as critical as that, isn't it? You know, if we sort of let ourselves fester doing things the way we've always done it, the acceleration is going too fast now. We'll be swamped. Right, now we've got a few minutes left. I do want to run one other quick poll because I think it's going to help us. We've been talking a little bit about the digital HR road mapping piece, and I'm really interested to see where people are at with, you know, that planning piece. So we're about to put up the next poll, and I've actually worked out how to pop these things out now so I can see them, which is kind of cool.
Now, this is an interesting question, David. One of the things that I think is that a lot of people give us roadmaps when we go do consulting with them, but one of the things I see is that most of them are not roadmaps or strategies. They're actually just project plans. So, you know, for me, answer this question as a 3-year roadmap on a journey versus a project plan that says we're doing this, 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 this. And if it really is a roadmap or a strategy, it has to have measures of success that are different than we're going to go live.
Yep, absolutely. So, look, hopefully you're answering that poll now.
I think
which really we're asking, how prepared are you? I think it's C. I think somewhere between B and C. I'm hedging my bets a bit on this one. I think
I bet it's between C and D.
There are some great efforts at putting some structure and some plans around it. I think, I suspect there might be some views on the quality of how good our roadmaps are. So how are we going there, Jared, with results?
David, you know, the other thing I think that's really interesting about this is that in this particular question, it's not about the vendor. No. I think way too many people in this space spend their time trying to select a vendor versus thinking about what they're actually trying to do as an organization. If you look at the world of vendors today, it's pretty much a commodity. Everyone's a fit. Everyone's a fit in different spaces, you know, and in different organizations, but your roadmap is not your vendor document.
No, and it shouldn't be vendor-led either, Jason. I think, you know, one of the things that really gets my back up is when I work with clients and they say, well, SAP or insert vendor name here, they've told us over the next 3 years they're going to add this piece of functionality here and this module here, and so we're aligning our roadmap around that, which you know, I think is not the right focus. We've got to be able to control our own destiny, and we've got to leave the door open to other solutions than just a single vendor at times as well. Yeah. We've got to be able to put whatever the vendors are, you know, innovating. We've got to put that in the mix and look at, you know, does that fit in with what we need? How are we going to approach that? How are we going to wrap that into the, you know, doing the 45 and 45 around that as well, you know, in terms of process and people. So I think it's a really critical thing. Oh, Jason, you've done it 2 out of 2, mate. 67% on the C. Need to get our arse into gear. Which,
yeah, I don't know what's an arse. I'm not familiar with the term arse, David.
We would call that an ass, or
I'm kidding.
Even a fanny, which is not a great term to be using in our part of the world.
I mean, one of the things that's shocking to me here, David, is we have 0% of people on this webinar driving their digital destiny, and we have 75% that don't have a strategy.
Yep.
Like, it's shocking. That's shocking. And I would say that if you don't have this, you're just wasting money.
Yeah, well, you've got to question how, I mean, there's a lot of challenges getting business cases up, and I think this is at the heart of that as well. If we're not actually thinking about this being, you know, a more proactively driven strategy and we're controlling our own, you know, roadmap in that sense, we're probably not doing the best we could at aligning the value and the benefits to come from executing against that roadmap as well. So I suspect we see a lot of organisations struggling to get business cases up, and for me that's probably a symptom.
So David, one of the things I'd love to, I know we're out of time, but one of the things I'd love to take away from this is we need to do another LeapChat on creating a digital roadmap.
Absolutely.
Because if we have 25% who are not sure that it's updated, and we have 75% that don't have one, there's a big need. So
and look,
I think that's got to be the next topic for sure.
Yeah, I think this has been I hope, we'll get some great feedback, I hope, from the audience themselves, but I hope this has been a good format. Conscious of us getting to the end of the time that we had allotted today, and we've got plenty more topics in our little bucket that we didn't even get near, Jason, so maybe we should make a commitment to ourselves, each other, and to this audience that we will we'll bring this format to the table again very soon, and maybe we could take a deep dive into some very specific topics like that, and I think that would probably leverage the format.
Yeah, and we both Future Knowledge and LeapGen, we both cross-reference each other's events. So look for the events on our different pages, and we'll continue to market each other's events so that you, no matter where you are in the world, and when we do one in the U.S., we'll try to do it when at a time where we can get the folks in your part of the world to join as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great initiative. So on that note, I'd just like to say thanks, Jason, for giving up your time this morning, this afternoon. Always a great conversation to have with you. So thanks again, and enjoy Moscow. Stay safe over there. I'm not sure what Russia's like in the Trump era. Whether it's a friendlier place, we don't know. Jury's out on that one, I think, at the moment. But stay safe, have fun. I'm looking forward to hearing about all your travels. Thank you to all of the folk that have joined in and actively participated today. I hope you got some value out of the conversation that we've had, and we look forward to seeing you again at a future event. And obviously, if you need help with your roadmaps, hit Jason and I up at any point in time, and we can certainly help steer you in the right direction with any of that stuff too. So thanks, folks. That's a wrap now, and we'll see you again next time.
Take care, guys.
Ciao.